All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Snoozers or Losers. Again, we have Kyle from Boom Bust Fantasy Football and Tony from Fantasy Quick Hits. Tonight, we're going to cover QBs and tight ends. All right, guys, tonight we're covering QBs and tight ends. I know last time we covered some wide receivers and running backs. So we are looking at overall season value still at this point on whether these players are snoozers or losers. So I know you guys don't know the players I have chosen to talk about tonight. So this should make this really fun and interesting. All right, let's go ahead and jump into a couple quarterbacks, guys. For snoozers or losers, let's start with Baker Mayfield. So is Baker Mayfield a fantasy snoozer or loser for this season? Tony, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I like Baker going into season 2. This is now his second season with this new coaching staff. We've got some potential for him to put up some numbers that I think will exceed what we saw from him last year. I don't know that I would trust him as a QB1, but I think he's a very solid QB2 with the potential for upside. Absolutely.
Cool. Kyle, what do you think? Well, Tony, I guess we gotta. Wait, is that making him a snoozer or a loser?
Yeah, it's tough at the quarterback position. I think Baker Mayfield is going probably right about where he should be going. But I do think that he does give you a little bit more upside than some of the other quarterbacks that typically go around kind of his same draft position. You're looking at maybe like a Kirk Cousins, or I've even seen Trevor Lawrence going before him, Matt Ryan kind of going in that maybe his tier or around his draft position. I think out of those guys, I'd rather have Baker Mayfield as my number 2 quarterback. But he's not one of the guys that I'm reaching for if I missed out on one of the elite quarterbacks. I'm not expecting him to finish top 10. But I think somewhere in the 10 to 15 range is very reasonable for him this year. So based on that, I guess I would call him a snoozer.
Cool. Yeah. Kind of based on ADP there, too. Yeah. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what his ADP is, but I completely agree. I think I would take him over some of those that he listed too, Lawrence and Ryan and guys like that. I don't think he gets near enough credit for the way he finished the season last year. He started getting kind of used to the new coaching staff and their system, and you saw him put up some really good games, and people are still remembering how he was before, which was he handed it off. I mean, that was pretty much all he did. And he still hands it off a lot. Don't get me wrong. They're still going to run the ball a lot. But I think he could finish in that 10 to 15 range. I don't think he gets enough credit. He could be one of the better QB2s on your squad, especially if you're in a 2 QB league and you got him as your number 2. I think you're going to be in real good shape. So, yeah, snoozer for me too.
Cool. So we're going to shake and bake as a snoozer. Let's talk about Tua. Kyle, what do you think? Snoozer or loser this year?
Honestly, I don't know what to think of Tua because for some reason people seem to think he's going to do really, really well this year, but I just don't trust him. I mean, I haven't seen enough from him to really get me excited about him. And then there's, of course, the rumors of Miami trying to trade for Deshaun Watson, who might not even play. So that's kind of a scary situation for Tua there, too. So, I mean, for me, I guess he's a loser because people are drafting him about the same range they're drafting Baker, I guess, that 10 to 15 range, and I don't want any piece of him there. So, for me, he's a loser.
Cool. Tony, what do you think?
I think I feel a little bit differently about Tua. Tua unfortunately played last season as a rookie at the same time that Justin Herbert kind of had his coming out party as a rookie, and he might have been overshadowed by that a little bit. I think there was some splitting of the locker room when he moved into that starting role because the Dolphins were playing great football. I mean, they were in playoff contention. They had a solid record, and there was a part of that locker room that was really behind Ryan Fitzpatrick keeping that starting position. So, he came in not the best of circumstances. Make no mistake, he's coming in this year. It's his team. They added some nice pieces there with Jalen Waddle, who I absolutely love. I think that guy is way undervalued in fantasy football, especially for dynasty. Will Fuller has some boomer bust to him, but he has the potential to do some things. Devontae Parker. I know there's a little uncertainty at the running back position, although it looks like Gaskin is going to be the guy to go. When the season starts. So I would definitely make him more of a snoozer. I think it also depends. I know we're talking primarily about redraft, but if you're talking about a dynasty league, he's a guy I want to have. I think they're going to give him every opportunity to succeed in Miami. I don't really buy into this Deshaun Watson trade talk. There's no way that Miami is giving up 3 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders for a guy who may not even play for another year or two, and who knows what his situation looks like. That just doesn't make any sense. So I don't really buy into that. I think it's Tua's team, and I think it's interesting because you started with Baker. I think between Baker and Tua, especially if I'm looking at my number 2 guy, if I've got my number 1 guy set, and I'm looking at my number 2 quarterback, I think I'd actually rather have Tua over Baker, just because I think the upside with Tua is a little bit higher for me. I think his ceiling is higher in Miami than Baker's might be. So I'm going to say snoozer.
Okay, we have a split decision, and you're on the proper side of the screen here with snoozer and loser here. Okay, so I guess I have to make the deciding vote here, and so I actually agree with points that both of you made. I have a hard time trusting Tua just because we haven't seen that much, but at the same time, he was injured. He was thrown in under weird circumstances. Really, no one saw that coming. So it was just very strange. I feel like they did add a lot of good tools to have at his disposal, like I said, with Waddle and Fuller, and then, of course, Devontae Parker is great. I think based solely off of his ADP and the upside this year, I think I also have to go with snoozer. I think he's a good QB2 that you can get pretty late. So I think based solely off his ADP, he's a snoozer. Yep. All right, guys, let's move on to our last quarterback for tonight. Let's talk about Jalen Hurts.
Bum, bum, bum.
Jalen Hurts, snoozer or loser this year? Let's go back to Tony first. Tony, what do you think of Jalen Hurts this year?
Yeah, it's interesting because you and I had a conversation about Jalen Hurts a couple of weeks ago, and we're making a case for him or Brady, and I really was leaning Brady, mostly because he's Tom Brady and the talent that he has around him. I think that's probably my biggest concern with Jalen Hurts is he doesn't have the receiving core that you'd like a top quarterback to have. I'm not even really sure who's going to be the number 1 there. Is it Devonta Smith? Is it Rager? So the one thing that Jalen Hurts gives you that you don't get in a Tom Brady, or you don't get in some of these top 10 quarterbacks, is he gives you a very high ceiling, or I should say a high floor, because of his running ability. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of talk now in circles about Jalen Hurts' potential based on how he finished out last season. He averaged 23 points a game to finish out 2020, and he could really set the fantasy world on fire this year. So I don't know that I would necessarily call him a snoozer, but because I think he's kind of going, he's right in that. He's after the top 2 tiers. You see him kind of maybe that 3rd or 4th tier, around 10, around 11, around 12. And so it's hard to necessarily, because I don't know that he's entirely sneaking up on anybody. But I would definitely put him in my snoozer category. I think his rushing potential just really kind of solidifies him as a quality starter. And he's a guy that I am going to target, especially if I'm missing out on one of the top 5 or 6 guys. If you're not getting, um, we all know the top 3 guys, and you're not getting Lamar, or you're missing Dak and Russell Wilson, and you're kind of moving into that second set of quarterbacks. He's a guy who could be an anchor for your fantasy football team this year. And one nice thing about Jalen Hurts, too, is he has a fairly favorable fantasy schedule. He only has really 3 difficult matchups this year. He played Denver in the middle of the season, and they have Washington twice towards the end of the year. So if you're kind of taking that into consideration as well, he's got a pretty good schedule for a fantasy quarterback. So Jalen Hurts, snoozer.
Cool. So you would say that I was right in that conversation?
Well,
ago.
But I'm moving closer in your direction.
Yes. I think we know which way I'm leaning if this ends up being a tie. So
let me also throw out there, full disclosure, that I play in a 2-quarterback auction league, and Jalen Hurts is one of my quarterbacks that I targeted and walked away with in that league. So I feel pretty good about him.
I love it. A lot
better now than you did 2 weeks ago.
Well, you're welcome for the good advice.
I think it's an interesting conversation comparing him to someone like a Tom Brady, because Tom Brady, I don't think we're doing or talking about him tonight. I don't know who's on the list. But again, my only concern with Jalen is just his receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
But he has had a full off season going into this year as a starter, so definite snoozer.
It's hard to divide sometimes or distinguish the difference between a real life quarterback value versus a fantasy value for some people too. When people think of Tom Brady, the GOAT, not necessarily the GOAT in fantasy.
Some guys are walking away in drafts with either Godwin or Evans as their number 1 receiver. Somebody's throwing in the football.
Understandable. It's very true.
And I think our last Snoozers and Losers, you guys were raving about Antonio Brown as a potential snoozer. So,
and then he lost his
last I looked, Brady's throwing the passes in Tampa.
Raving and outperforming his ADP are totally different. All right, Kyle, over to you, Kyle. Jalen Hurts, snoozer or loser for this year?
I was actually going to make the point that our impartial referee made during that discussion, in the fact that I think he'll be a much better fantasy quarterback than real life quarterback. That's just from watching him play at OU his senior year. He's not a great quarterback, but for fantasy purposes, is there a way for me to do a tie and hit both? Because I think he's going right, kind of like Tony said, right around this area he should be. I guess you could call him a snoozer just because there is that upside with his running that he could possibly, if Rager really steps up into that number 2 role behind Smith, they could be dangerous. They have 2 really good tight ends if they deploy them both.
So I chose this one because I knew it would be a little bit hard for you guys to say whether he was a snoozer or a loser.
Yeah.
And looking at his ADP, he's being drafted, kind of around that 10 to 12 quarterback. Do you think that he has potential to outperform that ADP and maybe finish in the top 6 or 7? I guess would qualify him as a snoozer.
Well, I think there is that potential just because of his rushing ability, especially if he's running it at the goal line and what have you. I think there's a lot of potential for that. I know. I forgot what I was going to say. I completely just forgot what I was going to say.
I think he's more in that 6 to 10 range. I think.
Oh, I knew what I was going to say. Yeah, the quarterbacks. Tony was listing off that kind of top echelon of quarterbacks, right? And then right after Russell Wilson, then you get in that next one. Well, it's I'd rather have Tannehill, I'd rather have Stafford before we got to Hurts, but he has the potential to outperform them,
right?
And jump up in that top 8 versus that kind of 8 to 12 limbo there. So yeah, I guess technically you could call him he's no Michael Vick. Obviously, he's not going to set the world on fire like that, with his rushing ability. But yeah, I guess I would call him a snoozer.
Cool. Tony, did you have something else to add on that?
No, I was just trying to help Kyle find his.
He had the
There's no helping Kyle.
I
There's no helping.
needed a jump start on my brain there for a minute.
And so I think it's going to be a bit of a stretch for him to leapfrog, into a top 6 to 7 finish. I don't say it's impossible, but
it will be difficult.
I don't know how. I mean, you kind of look at the guys you're talking about, and I just don't know how he's going to jump. Certainly the top 4. Dak.
Oh, he won't touch the top 4.
We'll wait and see. No. What I'm getting to is I don't see how he jumps into the top 4, and then after the top 4, you're looking at guys like Dak and and Russell Wilson. So
Dak is in the top 4.
What's that?
Dak is in the top 4.
He's probably put Lamar Jackson up there.
He's not going to jump Lamar Jackson.
Dak in the top 4. I would put Dak top 4 if he was coming into the season really healthy, and we saw him in preseason and felt good about the ankle. I think, but whatever, however you want to rank them, Russell,
he won't touch the top 5,
round out the top 6, whatever order you want to put them in, and then you look 7 to 10. I think is kind of where is he going to finish as high as Justin Herbert? Who also gives you that rushing floor.
Yeah.
Is he going to? What about what's going to happen with Lamar Jackson this year? Where is he going to finish in that top number? Aaron Rodgers, I think we're sleeping on Aaron Rodgers as well. So
yeah,
you're missing out on some of those guys. You're grabbing Hurts, and you're feeling really good about the fact that you grabbed him. Around you're as the 10th, 11th, 12th quarterback taken off. Who gives you that upside? But I don't think you could pass on someone like him. I'd rather have him over a Matthew Stafford because I just think his floor is so high with that rushing ability.
Cool. So we will say it is decided. Snoozer, Jalen Hurts this year. All right, guys, let's move on to some tight end talk here. First one we're going to talk about is Noah Fant. Kind of a tricky situation with his quarterbacks there. Kyle, what do you think of Noah Fant this year? Snoozer or loser?
He's a loser for me. Every year he goes higher than he should. Everybody's like, oh, he's so talented, blah, blah. But they never have anybody that can throw the ball out there worth a crap. I mean, I guess if anybody getting the ball, it's going to be Bridgewater. Because all of a sudden Jerry Jeudy's the man instead of Sutton because Bridgewater can't get the ball down the field. So, he'll be all right. But he's not one of the ones I'm drafting high. After the big 3 and then Pitts, Hawk, Andrews, I'm waiting. I ain't taking Fant up anywhere near those guys.
Who are you taking after those top guys you just listed? Who are you taking before Fant?
I'd rather have Logan Thomas for one. Johnny Smith. I'd rather have Johnny Smith. Irv was on my list until, a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Irv Smith, yeah. But obviously he's gone. He's done now. I actually like Higbee quite a bit this year. I'd probably feel more comfortable with him even.
Cool. All right. Tony, what do you think? Snoozer or loser this year? Noah Fant.
What's that?
Noah Fant, snoozer or loser this year?
Yeah, I think this one's an easy one for me. I don't think there's any back and forth on him. I have him as a definite loser. He just has not realized any type of solid, consistent fantasy potential. And you have to look at the offense. I think there are some real question marks there. Teddy Bridgewater, although I like the kid and I root for him and I want him to do well, his ceiling is capped, and he just doesn't have. He's just not the type of quarterback that's going to add value to your receivers or your tight ends. And they have a pretty deep receiver room, with Jeudy and Sutton. So I don't see the value there for Fant, especially where he's going. I think what's happening is guys are missing out on some of the top tight ends on the board, and then they're swinging for the fences with someone like a Noah Fant. And I think that's why you're seeing him go top 10. But I'd much rather have a Logan Thomas or even a Higbee, certainly Goddard, I'd rather have over Noah Fant as well. So those are just a couple of names. So I got Fant as a snoozer.
You got Fant as a
Loser.
snoozer.
Oh, as a loser, I'm
You
sorry.
meant loser. Yeah.
Loser. Lost my train of
Now,
thought.
now, who's got brain problems? See, we both had our senior moments for the night. So
Easy
I'm
peasy,
entitled
man.
to it.
Hey, that was an easy one. I like that. Noah Fant is a loser this year. All right, let's get on to our next one really quick since that one was so simple. How about Mike Gesicki? So we just talked about his quarterback with Tua. Tony, what do you think about Mike this year?
Yeah, Mike's a guy, boy, I'm really kind of on the fence with Mike. He just seems to gain this attention as a potential breakout tight end. And you see his name on there are several sleeper lists where his name will pop up. They added Will Fuller, they've got Jalen Waddle, they have Devontae Parker. They love this kid that they picked up, that Lynn Bowden Jr. As a playmaker. I also found it interesting that Miami they drafted Hunter Long, um, tight end out of Boston College. They drafted him this year in the third round, which to me, again, kind of just reading the tea leaves, that's a pretty bold statement about what you feel regarding your tight end when you draft somebody in the third round. And this guy Hunter Long was basically a pass catching machine at Boston College. I mean, that's what the guy does. They didn't draft this guy to block.
Right.
So I was really kind of leaning more towards him being a bust this year, but Hunter Long injured himself in the preseason here. So, I think that raises Gesicki stock a little bit. Hunter Long looks like he's going to be okay and coming back sometime soon. So I think, I kind of wanted to talk it out, I guess, while I'm giving you some of my rationale. I will tell you this, that as much as I'm rooting for Tua, I think that he is going to be more of a snoozer himself. I'm not crazy about Gesicki, and I'm gonna. It's yes, Gesicki, I think is how it's pronounced. Gesicki.
Whatever. Yeah, you're probably right.
So Gesicki, I'm gonna put him in my loser column.
Perfect. Loser. Kyle, what do you think? Snoozer, loser?
Loser. I lump him in with Noah Fant. He every year he's ranked too high. Like, he's a talented enough guy. He's just in the wrong offense. And I mean, every year he has like one or two really big games. Everybody's like, "Oh, there he is," and then he falls right back to earth. And it's like, I don't see it happening for him out there. If he ends up if Hunter Long ends up taking over next year and Gesicki ends up ends up somewhere else, like, that'll throw in the ball more, I think he could be very talented. But right now in that offense, I don't want anything to do with him, to be honest with you. So I got him in my loser column with Noah Fant. They're just chilling over there in the losers lounge together. Can't get no bottle service.
They're up in there like Tom Brady trying to get a high five.
Everybody's just leaving him hanging. He's like, please slap hands, please.
They're like, yeah, we're winners. So perfect. Guys, you're not having to use me a lot tonight. You guys are agreeing on all these. Fantastic.
We're gonna need you to try harder to stump us, I guess, from now on.
Yeah, maybe. But these are people that these are players that people wonder about.
It's true.
That's kind of what I'm going for. Is like,
it is true.
What are these ones that who knows what their ADP people are drafting and everything? What are we looking at here? So let's end it with our last tight end here with Robert Tonyan. Kyle, Robert Tonyan, tell me what you think about his 2021 outlook. Snoozer, loser.
He had a really, really hot start to 2020, and then he kind of just trailed off. I don't know what happened. I don't know why, but I do think in that offense with Aaron Rodgers, he still has a potential to be pretty good. And I mean, they don't call him Baby Kittle for nothing. The guy's talented, obviously, but he's being drafted a little too low, I think. He's being drafted after Fant and Gesicki, who we just talked about, and I'd rather have him than either one of them. So for me, that makes him a snoozer.
Interesting. Tony, what do you think? Snoozer loser, Robert Tonyan, 2021.
Yeah, I think you know, I've learned over the years that when you've got a stud quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, who still has it, and they're not like overflowing with talent at the receiver position. You have Devontae Adams, but after that,
you got Randall Cobb. What else do you want, man?
Yeah, they did bring in Randall Cobb, but
with his Walker
he's
coming in there,
Asian guy, right? Exactly. Here's the thing. So Tonyan had 11 touchdowns last year.
Mm-hmm.
One question mark on, is he gonna duplicate those touchdown numbers? But I think I want to have, if I have an opportunity to get a part of that offense with Aaron Rodgers behind center, then I'm going to take it. So I agree, and I kind of made the counterpoint with with Fant, who's throwing him the football. You got Aaron Rodgers throwing a football, and that right there kind of doubles, triples, quadruples your value in fantasy. So I do like Tonyan quite a bit this year, and I don't know why we're counting him out. I think he kind of was a big waiver wire pickup, and guys really rode him up for part of that season. I don't know why we're thinking, so I don't know why we're all of a sudden thinking that that he's not going to be able to produce this year. So I like Fant. I mean, I'm not Fant. I like Tonyan, and I definitely have him down as a fantasy snoozer.
Cool. So you guys,
I mean, it's a good example. Like earlier when you asked me who would you rather have over Fant, I didn't even think of his name. That's the kind of disrespect he's getting. Even from me, who has him as a snoozer, I didn't think of his name in that situation, and I definitely would take him over Fant.
Yeah, that's why I found that interesting.
But if Aaron Rodgers had ended up in Denver,
Fant's
we'd
totally
have to switch so fast.
Yep. So you both have him as a snoozer. Why am I even here?
Guess that's it for us tonight, folks.
Yeah. Why am I even here? You guys don't even need me. I don't get it. What do you got, Tony?
Let me do this if I could. I know this is I don't want to change the content of the show, but just because we're talking about tight ends, this is our last snoozer, at least for tight ends, right? Before the start of the season. So let me ask you guys this question. After you get past the top three, okay, I don't want to get into a debate about where we're going to rank them, but Kelsey and Waller and Kittle, that's probably the order they belong in, by the way. Who are the next one or two or three guys that you're taking?
Kyle, would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
I
switch his positions here on screen since Tony's
the referee. Tony's the referee. My next three are Pitts, Hawkinson, Andrews.
In that order?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going Pitts, Andrews, Hawkinson. Am I going Hawkinson? Or am I getting wrapped up in that man, I don't know. It's either Hawkinson or Logan Thomas.
I am with Hawkinson like Tony was with Hurts. He grew on me. Early in the offseason, I was not about some Hawkinson. I wasn't feeling it. I was like, Goff, he's going to be bad. Like, that offense is going to be terrible. And then, the more I thought about it, I'm like, who else is he going to throw to? He's got a rookie in the slot, Tyrell Williams, who couldn't stay healthy in Oakland, and who knows what he'll end up doing. Who else is he going to throw to? DeAndre Swift can't stay healthy either. So it's Jamal Williams and it's TJ Hawkinson. And with the more I learned about that coaching staff too, it told me that Hawkinson's probably going to be a pretty big piece of that offense. So he's really grown on me. So yeah, I got him right after Pitts in my number 5 spot.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me it's Pitts, Andrews, Hawkinson. Yep.
So I agree. The only thing that I would disagree, because I guess since you put me in the bottom, I'm the referee. I would put at 5 I would put Logan Thomas. I like him that much. And I just think this guy is going to pick up where he left off last year and is going to be a fantasy monster in that offense. My only concern with Hawkinson is kind of goes along the lines of what I was saying about Denver and Green Bay. I just don't want any part of that offense.
Yep.
Like, I'm not interested in Goff. I don't want Hawkinson. I'm staying away from Detroit. I don't want to touch Swift. I'm just staying away from that offense as a whole.
If it's any consolation, I do have Logan Thomas as number 7. And honestly, that 4 through 7 they're very close.
I mentioned Logan Thomas when I was on the fence with Hawkinson. I mentioned that.
I drafted Logan Thomas Saturday in our Roll Tide League. I like Logan Thomas. I got him 5 rounds after Hawkinson Andrews went. So
yeah. Guys are, people, more and more people are getting turned on to him now, so it's hard to steal him the way you used to, just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. But there's a reason why he's shooting up draft boards in fantasy leagues, and with Fitzpatrick there, and then that offense with Gibson and with Scary Terry and Curtis Samuel, I just think there's going to be plenty of opportunity to utilize this guy in the passing game. He showed you what he could do last year, so I put him in that next tier after the top 3. And I wouldn't be surprised, and this is my, going out on a limb for a player this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he moved up into the top 3. It would not shock me. We might see a changing of the guard, the tight end position this year.
If Kittle gets hurt again, maybe.
Well, I mean, but even there in that offense, I'm just with Garoppolo and Lance, some
Garoppolo play a handful of weeks, and
I don't think Kittle's going to play a full season without him. He just cannot seem to stay healthy.
Well, they used to say the same thing about Frank Gore and Matt Stafford, and then they never miss games again. So you never know. Injuries are fluky.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I love Kittle, but that's my concern. So
even if he misses games, I don't care. I love that guy. He's a game winner when he plays. That's all I care about.
On the note of Kyle's man crush, we'll wrap that one up, and we'll come back next week with more weekly specific snoozers or losers instead of 2021 overall season snoozers or losers. Thanks for your time tonight, guys, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.